Alright, it has been a while. This is going to, I guess, be my final video in this Road to Squamish series and kind of serve as a bit of a race recap, kind of final notes closing out, how the weekend went. Just being pretty busy since I got back, plus I wanted to kind of think about the overall event before I kind of weighed in with this final one, but with, I guess, all things said, let's jump in it. So, Saturday, day one of the Squamish 50. How did the morning go? Let's throw a picture up for inspiration. Got up at 2:30 in the morning. Had a little bit of oatmeal for breakfast. Nothing crazy. Previous night I'd laid out all the gear on the mattress and really had the clothes picked out, one last look through the drop bag. So I went to sleep knowing pretty well that things were ready to go, and sure enough the morning went well. Everything kind of executed as expected. We got dropped off pretty close to the start line, my brother and we walked out there. We were probably chilling for about 25 minutes before the event kind of kicked off. Was all laid out as you would expect. The only thing kind of dubious, I don't have a picture, is like if you flip around here from the start line, the washrooms were actually like across the street in the pitch black. Without the headlamp, you couldn't even like go and take a piss, which was kind of funny. But other than that, Gary Robbins came out, said a few words. Here he is standing at the top. Talked about some of the course records, prizes for the day, and kind of getting everyone a little bit hyped. And then boom, we kind of started the race. And let me see where the first picture is. We didn't actually get too many pictures during the run because I was kind of in the zone. But let's kind of do a bit of a walkthrough and kind of share my thoughts as we're going through. So the starting line was right around here, and as expected, first 10K was quite flat out the gate. At this point, I started with my brother, and he had some issues getting like a full training camp in, so he wasn't sure how hard he was going to go, and it seemed reasonable at least that we would start together and kind of see how things went. So sure enough, we did that. Kind of kicking off, you kind of quickly make a quick turnaround town, one more kind of down a bend. You go down just like a little bit of road, and then you kind of start in these like really flat trails by the water and whatnot. And sure enough, that first 10K, super easy, nice and flat. And I started out probably around a 6:30 pace, 7 minutes. And I was running with my brother, and we were kind of passing some people and behind other people. And at about the 3K point, I was feeling more warmed up, and I thought we were going to go past some people that were running. He kind of wanted to stick with them, and that was kind of the last time I saw him for the day there, as I kind of picked it up. As I worked through that kind of first 10K, I gradually got pretty close. I think I was just under a 6-minute pace by the end. I had put my shell coat on to block the wind because it was a bit chilly. I kind of regret it because I was a bit hot already by the end of the first 10K. My brother's girlfriend was there though, so I was able to ditch the coat at that first 10K, which kind of coincided with like the Canadian Tire. Somewhere around here essentially. I don't know exactly. Yeah, it must be right here. Because essentially you drop all your shit off. Well, if you have somebody there, it's not a real drop point, and then you're gonna head a little bit, and then the real kind of trail starts. And yeah, I was feeling great coming out of the first 10K. It's pretty sick. Any kind of nagging issues I had a few weeks prior definitely felt like healed back and was running good. Then into the second 10K, maybe I'll bring up the elevation map so we can kind of go through this. Let's look at the athlete guide. Sorry, hold that thought. Let's see here. There we go. I just want to get in on the elevation. Here we go. So yeah, there's the elevation. So that first 10K was super gentle, and then after the that first 10 and you're heading into the second section, it's you just start to head into the forest, and in my opinion, this is where like the race actually begun. And you go through this like first big climb, and this thing was a beast. It was actually pretty deceptive how crazy some of the sections were on it. This is where I actually witnessed, well, I shouldn't say witnessed, kind of came up on somebody who had like their first major injury at the race. I guess this guy on one of these descents, which they were pretty treacherous, really rocky cliff faces, kind of misstepped and like busted his ankle immediately. You could see immediately by like the swelling and the bruise and how he was moving. Not good. Not good for kind of sub 15k into an 80k race. I was probably game over for him. I don't recall seeing him, but it's hard to tell. Like maybe he kept on toughing through it for longer, but he looked pretty crippled and he was wincing. And we were on a decline when he already was on the side of the trail, and he had way further to go down. I think it was right in around this first kind of dip up. It's one theme that I'm going to talk about in this race is like the descents are crazy hard. I didn't find the climbs. You know, some of them are tough just due to the elevation, but they weren't like real technical climbs where it felt pretty dubious kind of going up. But the descents were very technical, a lot of drops, loose gravel, sometimes really steep elevations. Anyways, first climb, it was good to kind of see a beautiful view as we kind of headed up there, and felt pretty gingerly. Made it to this the 2K point here. Sorry, the 2K, just past the 20K point, and that was when I kind of refilled. I was doing tailwind in the bag, I should mention. I was carrying baggies on me, and I essentially started with like 3 scoops. And I was going to do about 3 scoops per kind of stop was what was going to work with me. So threw another one in. Overall, I was feeling very strong. Headed into the second, or I guess it's the third section at this point. This was pretty gentle as well. Didn't feel too bad, enjoyed it, and then we got to this corner section, and this is where kind of things actually got kind of deceptively hard. I thought this was going to be like a very easy section. Essentially, it's like before the big climb. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, here we go. So yeah. Oh, this is the Canadian Tire here. So bad. Canadian Tire. First thing into the mountains. That was that first climb we're talking about. And then this section was pretty gentle. And then it's right here at aid station 3 where you do this corner section where you come out and then you do the big climb for the day. I kind of slept on this section thinking it was going to be like a gentle 10K. And during that I got pretty beat up. I kicked a lot of tree roots, took some real damage on this section. Not to mention I got some rocks in my shoes, and I kind of ignored it because I was feeling good about the pace. We'll talk about more about that like later. Anyways, by the time this one was done, I was coming up back to the aid station 3, and I was feeling a lot more fatigued than I had anticipated. Knowing that the big climb of the day was like right next, didn't feel great. But yeah, it took like 2 minutes, had a quick bathroom break, and ate some gummy bears, threw more tailwind in, and this is where a critical mistake happened. I was in such a rush to get up there, I didn't zip my backpack. And I'll talk about how this impacts me later, but I didn't zip my backpack, and I headed out, and I didn't clear the rocks out, so I started the big climb, and it starts super easy. It's really flat for just a quick second, and the views, and that's kind of where this picture here I took right off the bridge before that climb, because I'm like, it's probably not going to be picture time for a long time. And it was just a beautiful kind of rapid river going underneath this huge bridge. And then boom, okay, so we head into this climb, and I'm probably only a little bit up at this point, and I'm like, I gotta get the rocks out of my shoe, and I like try to like come down to like, I guess, squat a little bit to get the rocks out, and I just feel like my hip flexor like just firing off super hot, and I'm like, am I gonna have a spasm if I try to get these rocks out? So I actually made the call, and I'm not sure it was the right one, to just keep on pushing, with fear like if I sit down, maybe I'm gonna like have like a straight up muscle spasm, and then that might be even worse. So I started the climb, and holy shit, by about halfway up this thing, pace was slowed right down. I think it was like over 18-minute kilometers at some points, sweat in buckets, and it was just like a death march up this. And I was with like a line of people too, and every once in a while somebody would step to the side of the trail and you could tell they were like cooked, and it was going to be like the time to just sit there and kind of get your soul back. But there was probably like 7 of us that stayed pretty tight the whole time, grinded this thing out. And what I didn't expect was that the descent down this thing was pretty nice. I didn't find it too bad. Overall, I enjoyed it. It was not nearly as hard as this like quick descent on the previous section. This was like really technical. This was gentle. It went on for a while, but it was pretty easy to get down this thing. Then I got to this aid station 4, and this is when I noticed that my bag was open. I'd lost all my tailwind. I wasn't gonna like use their stuff, so I just took like straight water at this point. Ate a bit of like a banana, and then I kind of like just headed out. And I guess just because of how much descent was in this thing, I don't know, I got pretty thirsty, ended up kind of drinking through all my water before I was even back. It was definitely in the afternoon and getting pretty hot at this point. Let's see if we can catch that. So we kind of came up the big hill, grind down this thing, and then we're heading over to like the university, which is over here. So you're kind of heading down even more. It was cooking, you're sweating, and I think I was losing control of my overall kind of electrolyte balance. Feeling pretty dehydrated. I think I took a salt pill at that point, tried to get back on track. But I think the lack of tailwind was a bit of a problem. It's kind of hard to like get things back. I'd also by this point really kicked quite a few more kind of tree roots and things like that in the foot. My right foot was getting like pretty fucking sore. It was nuts. Just kind of trying to get through the pain and feel good for a little bit. But my overall ability to kind of stride by about this point here, kind of heading into like 53K, was starting to fall apart. And then we get here, it's the university. I meet up with my brother's girlfriend. It's where you get your drop bag as well. So I actually got some tailwind in there, got things kind of mixed back up. Should have stopped to get the rocks out. I know it's like, honestly, I feel so stupid with the oversight there, but this was another opportunity, but I just kept on pushing through. And yeah, then you're pretty much on just a big climb for the next few hours as you're kind of hammering up here. It starts just on like pavement roads, and then you're just grinding up a super long hill for a few hours, it felt like. And then this descent is where things really started to get rough for me. Got to a point, I guess, where my legs had gotten beat up enough that every time you step down, you're just kind of feeling it through like everything in your legs, your knees especially. I felt like I was moving so slow. I wish it was more of just climbing, because the climbing was steady, but the descents I was falling apart on. Kind of got to this 0.6, and everything was still reasonable. I didn't have any fear I wasn't going to make it. And I thought still at this point it was going to be possible to get somewhere in and around kind of 13 hours, 14 hours seemed viable, because I was still making pretty good pace. And I kind of thought that the worst stuff was behind me. So kind of heading out from the 6th to the 7th point. Let me check the pictures here. Is there anything else? Oh, this is one picture of the big climb. Doesn't really do it justice, though, how steep that is. Yeah, this is one of the descents. It's just there was like lots of rocky stuff. This wasn't a steep one though. This was pretty gentle. Anyways, let's find the pacing. Yeah, in and around here now. 12 minute, 11 minute, 10 minute pace. Just falling apart. Anyways, so 6 to 7 was pretty good. Moving pretty slow. This climb I thought was going to be like the last big one. And when I got to 7, I thought I remembered reading on the race description that there was like quite a bit of pavement running at the end. I didn't realize that there was still like these 2 mini climbs in here. And this last one really threw me off. So I thought it was going to be a simple 10 back. And I didn't take any electrolyte. I just took a bit of water. I didn't fuel up. I really thought I had this thing in the bag at that point, and got completely derailed between the foot and like the toe, like really feeling a lot of swelling. Just without the extra electrolyte, the climbs were just brutal. Just feeling it. And I was starting to like feel like your muscles like contracting because you know like you're running out of like nutrients or something. And as I was kind of making up this last bit of a climb, I kind of stepped and boom, you just feel your like hamstring starting to flare up. And I thought it was going to be like the previous year where I pulled it super hard, so I kind of pulled back, and you know it hurt, but it was short of like the crippling nature of how it was last time, where I felt like I pretty much collapsed and kind of had to chill for a while. Like I was still able to get going, but it still felt like it was right on the edge. So I didn't have any electrolyte on me. Still like just near the tail end, so I'd like just bring the pace down, chill it. And yeah, this last little bit was sad to kind of limp it in. It was light jogs at points, but really moving slow. And by the time we hit the pavement, it was it was like a speed walk to kind of little jostle at best going through here, and boom, we got it done. And finished like 14 hours 19 minutes. This time isn't correct. It's this time here. And I didn't stop my watch immediately. It was like 14:19 was my time. So definitely screwed myself with the kind of bungling last 10K. Probably kicked a few too many tree stumps. So I had to wait around for my brother to finish. He finished about 40 minutes later, which was great to see. And I think it was just part of like not getting into nutrients immediately and still kind of waiting around in the cold. You're trying to eat a little bit as we kind of wait. I didn't have like too much in my drop bag, just a little bit to kind of keep me warm. So I'm feeling pretty cold. And by the time we screwed around and finally like got back to like the Airbnb, was feeling super rough. And like when I took like my shoes off of my bandage, I could see that like my toenail was literally hanging by like some skin, and it was just like a massive blister. Thank God I wrapped it, but even like with it wrapped, like the toe was just like fucked. Go to the bathroom, you go to the washroom, and it's like the color of like Coca-Cola. You know, like things are in rough shape, so started like hydrating immediately. The unfortunate part is like I wasn't able to fall asleep or get the swelling down. By the time like I woke up in the morning, kind of did a little bit of a leg test. Said, okay, let's just stretch it out for an hour or so, see if we can get anything kind of going. Yeah, sadly it was too compromised, because technically we had the 50K on the Sunday, and to make the cutoffs, the slowest that you can move at is 5 kilometers an hour, or like a 12-minute kilometer pace. And at the way I was feeling, I knew I was going to be slower than that by a decent margin. even because you got to factor in the climbs as well. It's like you need to maintain that kind of cutoff rate on the steep stuff. And yeah, unfortunately, wasn't able to get to the day two event. So I guess it's just 50 miles this year is kind of what we got done. I guess overall, course itself was fantastic. Yeah, if you like technical trails, you can't go wrong with this one. It was pretty sick. A lot of forest, very different than the Sinister 7 the previous year. Different set of challenges, and even though like we're talking about kind of mountain trail running, still varied enough that I would say they're both very good but unique races. Yeah, so let's kind of recap the Squamish 50. Was everything I was expecting and more, and yeah, pretty sick race. In terms of what is next, not 100% sure. I'm gonna think about it for kind of 2 months here and decide, because I'm not sure if we're gonna head straight into like another mountain trail race. Do I go for another 50 miler? Do I maybe try to go after 100 miles and maybe like a flatter course? Do I want to do something still out in BC, or maybe do I want to try Quebec? Because they have some great mountain runs as well. Stuff across the country that could be interesting. I'm not 100% sure, so I want to kind of check some dates, kind of make a little log of what's interesting, kind of decide what's next. But yeah, been a hell of a year. 3 ultras in. The training plan itself went pretty well. I think it was probably like a touch long, because I feel like I plateaued probably just a touch early than ideally wanted to. So I think 24 weeks is probably the sweet spot, because I felt like I was kind of peaked maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks earlier. Not that there would have been like a massive amount of fall off, but I felt like my best energy and kind of drive was just a touch before the race. Unfortunately, it's hard to always gauge these things, but we'll try 24 weeks next time out and see how that works out, and have to work backwards. So we need to kind of figure out some raw dates. Gonna see what makes sense, and yeah, Squamish, I guess Squamish 50 this year, not 50-50, and yeah, crazy. If you ran this race, I know quite a few people that kind of came in from Toronto, and when I was following, it looked like most people finished, which was good to see that I was watching, which is cool. And yeah, we'll have to see what's next. Peace.